As you can see, Brooke is business professional, and I'm wearing a Utah State basketball jersey because we are 10 minutes away from hopefully clinching the Mountain West regular season men's basketball championship, and hopefully on our way to a March Madness bid. So go Aggies.
This is Fraud to Fearless.
Friends, you are made for more purpose, more confidence, more impact. Because when you live fearless, you inspire others to do the same.
Let's go! My confession is I didn't even know they were playing today, so I'm sorry, but I love you, Aggies. Good luck.
Yeah. Other announcement is for all of you listening from the United Kingdom, welcome. We have had a flurry of listens. The US is still our number one country by streams. So our software, we can see where you are, like the country that the listens are coming in. And there's been a big flurry from the United Kingdom. So we see you. You belong here and welcome. Brooke and I actually in grad school
We're
went
the
on
biggest
an
fans.
international. Yeah. London's one of my favorite cities in the world. Brooke, I know it's high on your list. And we had a great time when we went for our global trip.
Yeah, give us some love on if you're listening from the UK, we can't see the cities that you're in. So write a comment, tell us where you're from. We love getting messages from you guys. We've had so many. Thank you for taking the time to write to us. We love it.
Today, we're continuing our goals series, which is one of Brooke's favorite topics. And today, we're talking about saboteurs. So, Brooke, I know this is one of your favorite parts to talk about with goals. For those of us that have no idea what that word means, probably me included, will you tell us what a goal saboteur even is?
This is such an interesting topic. And Hayden, it's not just saboteurs around goals, but saboteurs for life. So, what is a saboteur? Think of self-sabotage. If you think about it from like a tactical perspective, when you have a plan in place and someone's coming to try to sabotage it, what are they trying to do? Ruin it so that it doesn't happen. I think that we've all experienced self-sabotage in one way or another, and it's so frustrating, that cycle of starting and stopping or wanting to do something, but then you don't do it.
When did you first learn about a goal saboteur?
Yeah. I mean, I had heard the term self-sabotage before and had identified certain things that I was doing, like, oh, I'm trying to learn a dance to this in high school. Me and my friend, I would literally invite my friend over. We needed to do homework. Instead of doing homework, we get on YouTube, we'd find our favorite music, and then we try to make up dances for like 3 hours instead of doing the homework. And then we'd be so tired we couldn't do our homework. So I knew like these are some patterns in my life for self-sabotage. But it wasn't until recently that someone shared at a family dinner, they're like, have you heard about this saboteur quiz? It's like, what? What is it? So I went and took this quiz and it tells you your top saboteurs. And I thought, whoa, this is so interesting. So I started looking more into the methodology and like, Hayden, you and I are big fans of the strengths tests, like top 5. What are your top 5 strengths? This one was like, what are your top saboteurs and how can you identify them? So I was like, I wonder what this is based in the research. And then I found out that you could get certified to coach this stuff. And I was like, I am freaking in. I want to learn about this. There's something here because when I looked at the list of saboteurs, I thought, I see all of these in my life. I want to learn how to get past this and like stop them for good. So that's kind of where it started.
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't even put a label to it. Like when a goal fails for me, I just think I'm the problem. I just think I'm not good enough or I'm not talented enough or I didn't work hard enough. But even now, Brooke, I've never like put a label on it. Like you teach me about goals all the time, and we talk about this stuff like on and off camera, and it's like I still don't feel like I know much about goal saboteurs. So I'm excited to
Okay,
learn.
buckle up, Hayden. Let's talk about it. Let me give you the background for what this study is based in so that you can understand how actually powerful this is. So, there have been so many studies done just on the power of the mind. I think we've talked about it here that I love neuroscience and understanding how the brain actually works. It's fascinating to me, mostly because it gives me so much hope to the facts that we are physically wired to be able to change certain things about ourselves. And that brings me so much hope. But they started doing these studies, Hayden, about have you heard of an fMRI? Have we talked about this yet?
No.
So it's like an MRI, but an fMRI is used specifically on the brain. It's basically the closest thing that you can get to visually seeing thoughts.
Hmm.
So with this fMRI, they look at the brain, and depending on the thoughts that you're thinking or what you're experiencing, different parts of the brain light up. So they've done this, they've done studies on thoughts. They wanted to figure out, they took a certain number of people, and they did this test to see how many thoughts does somebody have in a 24-hour period. And they came up, the number blew my mind. Okay, do you want to guess?
How many thoughts I have in a day?
Yes, how many thoughts do you have in a day?
My gut instinct is it's going to be big. So I'm going to say like 10,000.
Okay, you're gonna be shocked. So
Okay.
actually, it's there is a range, and I think you're right. I think it was 10,000 was at the end, and to 70,000 thoughts per day.
Wow.
So I like to joke around because I'm like, it's probably women that have 70,000 thoughts per day. But yes, there's a range. And if you were to break that down by hours, 70,000 thoughts, how many thoughts do you have in an hour? It's like 5,000 or something. How many of those thoughts are we actually even aware of? Like two in an hour? I don't know. So the point is that was so interesting about this study was that, wow, we have all of these thoughts, but we're not constantly thinking about these things, thankfully, because that part of our brain, it runs on autopilot. We're able to do lots of other things, but that autopilot mind is directing a lot of what we do every single day. So then, Stanford University, they did this study, and they said, we want to take the top high performers, CEOs, athletes, all of this stuff, look at everybody and figure out what is it that's making them high performers and able to like accomplish all of these things. Are there key insights that we can get from this? And then on the other side of things, people that wouldn't be as high performers, what's sabotaging them from reaching that kind of a thing? So, across 1 million participants, different countries, cultures, all of this stuff, they found something so interesting. And what they found was that there was commonalities, 10 of them. And these 10 commonalities are now what we know to be the 10 saboteurs. So, they were able to put a name to it, and they started studying this. This is kind of the background research, but what was interesting for me, Hayden, was that with this study, and back to the fMRI, when you look at your brain and you're looking at the different parts of your brain that light up, they were noticing that when these negative response patterns that would come up when people were self-sabotaging, they all came up in a specific region. It was
Mm.
the left side of the brain, or we'll call it the negative side of the brain. This is the same side of the brain that lights up when we run on autopilot. So these saboteurs are a part of our daily life that run on autopilot that we aren't even aware of, but are literally impacting our life in so many different ways. So when I learned this, I was like, this is life changing. To understand what is sabotaging you that you're not even aware of, it's in your subconscious, can literally change your life.
Every person is different. We have different personalities. We have different experiences, different community, and we all have natural talents. Some come more naturally than others, but all of us are infinitely unique. But then there are things that are similar with all of us. We all experience fear. We all at times experience confidence and victory. And one of these commonalities is self-sabotaging ourself, self-sabotaging a skill, or putting your hat in the ring to apply for, student body president, or signing up to take on a project at work, or starting a business, right? Those stories are really interesting to actually hear how someone went through starting a business, because be honest, all of you listening, you've had a thought before about, should I start a business? Like you've come up with an idea. And so I think what's so interesting, Brooke, is you just put a label and brought into the light something that is one of those commonalities that every single one of us struggle with. And by understanding, I imagine we're going to walk through what these 10 are. By understanding what they are, now we can do proper application and then coaching of ourself on how we overcome these 10 saboteurs.
Yep, exactly. So the whole premise of this thing is that every single day, Hayden, we are self-sabotaging in work, life, and relationships every single day. And how do we know this? Because of this literal study. They found that if you are in a negative emotion for longer than a couple of seconds, you are self-sabotaging.
Hmm.
When I first heard this, I was like, what? And there might be people listening that are like, but Brooke, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be insert negative emotion. And to that, I will say yes, 100%. It is okay to feel those things. But the analogy that was taught to me, what has stuck with me. So, Hayden, if you put your hand on a hot stove, you're going to feel what?
Super hot. Burn.
Pain. Yes, you're going to feel pain. And the pain is a good thing. It's a good thing that you're feeling the pain because the pain is saying something needs to change ASAP. And then you make the change. So it's the same thing with negative emotions, though. If we feel anger or we feel stressed, the actual act of feeling stressed is an indicator that something needs to change or something needs to happen. The problem becomes when I don't remove my hand from the hot stove, when I continue to leave it there all day long or feel stressed all day long, because what is that doing? Stress is an indicator that I need to get something done or that something needs to change. If I don't get out of that negative emotion all day, I'm going to be drained emotionally, mentally, physically. This is something that has happened to me my whole life. So when I heard this analogy, I thought, oh my goodness, I'm literally staying in these negative emotions and not switching out of the negative emotions. I'm self-sabotaging all the time. But the good news is, just as you said, if you can identify when you're self-sabotaging, then you're able to switch out of that negative part of your brain, the part that's on autopilot. And you do that by bringing things to your consciousness, because that's the other side of your brain, the positive side of your brain, or the part that's not on autopilot.
It feels to me like self-sabotage, to your example of touching the hot stove, the pain is actually acting as something helpful because it's telling you that something's wrong and you need to move your hand off the stove. But my view is in today's world, our bodies are playing tricks on us, trying to keep us comfortable all the time. So in the case of the stove, you could be that could do some serious damage and like bodily harm, and if you kept it there long enough, like something very serious could happen. So I understand that. But there are also types of pain like soreness from the gym or like sauna, cold plunge, that your body is like, no, 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 don't do that. Let's not do that. And then that same trigger in your mind is like, whoa, 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 don't present. Do not present. Cause like, what if you fail? Right? It's like sometimes I do Orange Theory, and this is weird. This is probably like proof that I don't have 10,000 thoughts. I'm maybe closer to the 70,000. But sometimes when I'm running on the treadmill at Orange Theory, I kind of have an out of body experience. And sometimes a thought pops into my head like, what if I tripped? I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but sometimes, like, I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and some days I'm liking what I'm seeing, some days not as much. And then a thought will just pop in that's like, what if I just tripped on the treadmill, you know? Um, but so then I have to counter that and be like, no, man, you're not going to trip. Just like keep running strong. Like you got this. But like that example happens for things that aren't as severe as touching the stove. And so I think that this is why this topic is so important, because we need to quickly be able to identify what parts of our brain trying to keep us comfortable are good, like don't touch the stove, your hand will burn, and what is, I think, a little discomfort in this area would actually do some good for you. Maybe you should go present. Maybe you should be the lead on this project. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think there's different saboteurs that you're bringing up in each of those, and it's the difference between what is something, going back to goals, what is the result or the end outcome of what we are trying to do, and what's the cost of not doing it or doing it. And when you look at it from the cost and impact perspective, it helps you make another decision. I love your example of the inner thoughts that happen while you're at the gym. I have never thought that thought, but I have seen videos, hilarious videos of people. It's not hilarious that they're getting hurt, but like,
Like a fail video. See, I don't want to give
yes,
you content to laugh at from me falling on the treadmill. So that's why that thought, pops in. But
pops
yeah,
in.
I think I'd love to learn the saboteurs.
Okay, so let's dive in. The first saboteur that every single person has in this whole entire world, and is also the start of every other saboteur that comes after, is called the judge. So the judge has three parts. There's judge of self, judge of others, and judge of circumstances. Now, the judge has a very interesting job, because the judge makes observations. They're either accurate or inaccurate, but they always end in the same thing, which is you feel bad about the situation. So, for example, judge of self might feel like, oh my goodness, you shouldn't even try to go for that job. Or you're a horrible parent. Why did you do this thing? You're not smart enough. Blah, 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 blah. This is the judge of self, constantly telling you you're not good enough. You shouldn't have done that, whispering in your ear. And it's very important to make this call out, because so many times we think that the judge's voice is our voice. We think that it's us saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, but this is the judge. And a lot of times with all of these saboteurs, this is a side note, they have developed in childhood. as a method or a way to protect ourselves for us to get the things that we need. Acceptance, love, whatever it was that we were seeking, these saboteurs tried to come in and help us with those things. They each have a big lie that we believe is actually going to help us. If we're super self-critical, no one can be more critical than me, so I can't be hurt if I'm
Yeah.
more critical, right? There's so many lies that the judge tells us. So this is judge of self. Judge of others is has a huge impact, because talk about feeling frustrated. Talk about, this can look like comparison. This can look like feeling better than somebody. This can look like so many different ways. But the instant that we start judging others, the impact, not only that, especially if you're saying it to somebody's face, how they feel about you and the situation, but someone cuts you off. And yeah, maybe that dude was a jerk. So it's an accurate observation, but then it's ruined your day. You felt horrible about it the whole rest of the day because this dude cut you off while you were driving, right? Judge of others. And then the third is judge of circumstances. So this is, I have gone through this, like we've gone through this really difficult thing, or we're having a horrible experience, or our house flooded, our car broke down, we lost our job, whatever it is. And the judge says, this experience is so horrible, 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 horrible. And you should feel terrible about it. And just, this sucks. And you just sit
Yeah.
in that. We've all felt that experience, right? Like,
Totally. Yeah.
it's horrible. So, although they might be accurate observations, this lives in the negative part of our brain. Now, to be able to switch out of that negative side to the positive side, and how you diminish the voice of the judge, is to prove that the things that it's saying are actually lies. So, in the example of judge of circumstances, we'll just do this one example. I think, Hayden, you can think back on your life. We can all think back on our life. Think of a time that you were going through something so hard. Like, it was the most difficult thing that you've ever been through. And in the middle of it, you're like, I don't know if I'm going to make it out of this thing. And now, looking back, you might not want to ever go through that experience again, but you can see the gifts or the learning that has come from that experience. And so in that moment, the judge is going to have you believe your life is over. This is so horrible. There's no coming back from this. There's no hope. But the truth is, every circumstance can be turned into a gift or an opportunity. And that in the moment, that can just suck all the life out of us and keep us stuck where we are, keep us from looking for the learning or the gifts or the opportunities, making decisions to try to get out of that. The judge keeps you stuck. So that's the judge.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go through these ones high level. And I mean, there's so much content. Like, I teach a 7-week course on this thing. So we're not going to be able to get into all the details, but let's just talk high level so you can see which ones might be impacting you. The accomplice saboteurs. So these are the ones that come after the judge typically. This is number 1 is avoider. So the avoider is avoiding anything difficult or unpleasant. Think about how the avoider might show up in work. That it shows up for me when I have a pile of laundry. I'm like, I'll just do that thing tomorrow. It's going to be fine. Or I'll send the email tomorrow, or I'll do the thing. And what happens? We're trying to avoid difficulty, but then it's a lie, because the anxiety, the tasks start to build up. We don't do it. This can show up in relationships, Hayden, in I'm not going to have this difficult conversation. Like, maybe if we just don't talk about it, it's going to go away.
Yeah.
And so, avoider. And it has a major cost. It has a major cost when we let the avoider run in our life. It's trying to keep us safe,
Yeah.
but it's not.
Okay.
The next one is the controller. So this is the saboteur that needs to take charge and take control of a situation or people's actions. They may have high anxiety around certain things, impatient, um, and feel super stressed when they don't have control over a situation. Like it's beyond them. This shows
These
up.
folks likely don't have a passport. They probably don't want to do international travel.
Yes. So this is just the controller. There's uh often a hidden fear of being controlled by others or life. So like when things happen that are out of your control, you want to be able to predict the future. We like to have a plan. I want to do X, Y, and Z things to ensure that this bad thing doesn't happen to me or that I can guarantee success. And many times we know that's not possible. So it can make lots of things in work and life and relationships super hard.
Okay.
The next one is hyperachiever. This is super interesting because Hayden, my top strength is achiever, but my top saboteur is hyperachiever.
Hmm.
And what I've noticed with working with clients and in different groups is that that is a commonality, that typically your greatest strength is also your greatest saboteur if it's not kept in check. So, hyperachiever is you're dependent on constant performance and achievement. You feel like you have to be achieving things to have value, to you've probably focus on external validation, the goalpost moves. It's like once I hit this thing, then I'm going to be happier. Once I do this thing, and it's like everything is focused on that, just achieving those things. So again, think about how does this impact? How could the hyperachiever be impacting me in work? This one's really hard because you may get a lot of praise and gain, but if you think about the relationships that you have in your life at work, you might be burning bridges or you don't care about building those. And then in your personal life with relationships as well. So,
Okay.
hyperachiever. The next one is hyper rational. So this is you are very focused on the rational process of everything. And so many times people that have this as their top saboteur, and maybe you've connected with people where it just seems like they're so analytical to the point that they feel cold or like intellectually arrogant because they know so much. They're just focused on, does this make sense logically? And um, a lot of times the hyper rational survival strategy usually comes from people that have had lots of emotional turmoil or chaotic surroundings. So it's like, I want to escape the emotion of this situation and just look at this rationally. We love these people too because they're actually able to make pretty good decisions, maybe way better decisions than those of us that might be on the more emotional side, speaking for a friend. But it can self-sabotage, right? In relationships. So the next one is hypervigilant. So this one is you are continuously feeling intense anxiety about all of the things that could go wrong. Um, the dangers, and there's almost like this, you can't rest from those thoughts of, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? This could go wrong. This could go wrong. This could go wrong. Usually in early childhood, maybe you experience something where your source of safety and security was very unpredictable and unreliable. So you're constantly looking for what's the safest route so that I can be safe and be okay. All right. The next one is pleaser. Dun, dun, dun. This one definitely has showed up in me. We've talked about this in past episodes, but the pleaser is all about trying to get acceptance and affection from other people by any means possible. So this could be pleasing them through words or rescuing or flattery. Usually, the problem with this and how you're self-sabotaging is that your own needs, the things that you actually want, desire, or need to have, are getting pushed under the rug, and you're doing things for other people to get that acceptance or affection. And so there's a huge cost to that. You can go unseen. You're probably unhappy in many ways because you're not actually getting what you want.
Hmm. This is a tough one, Brooke. I imagine the pleaser will be a top one that I struggle with.
Mm-hmm. The next one is restless. So this one's interesting because basically you are constantly in search of greater excitement in the next activity, or you're constantly busy. So the example that they gave when I was learning about this was like, you have a million ideas, or you dig a million, you want to dig a well, but you start digging and then you go to the next one. You're like, this is not a good enough spot. And then you start
Mm,
digging another hole and you end up
mm,
with 100 shallow wells instead of like finishing the thing out. So, usually this is to like escape from dealing with fears, anxieties, but restless, like what's next? What's next? I need the next thing. Okay. The next one is stickler. This is the perfectionist. I like to call it the perfectionist, but it's called the stickler. And so it is this need to have things perfect, a need for order and organization, but it's just taken too far to the point where you are working on a slide deck you have to present tomorrow, and you are worried about the spacing versus the actual content that you're going
mm-hmm,
to be teaching.
mm-hmm.
And you just take so much time editing podcast episodes. You can't, that you don't
Who are you
sleep.
describing, Brooke? It sounds like you know someone that maybe is a stickler.
Yes, it's not good. So, the stickler. All right. This might be our last one. Let's see. Didn't keep
Yeah, this
track.
is 10. This is 10.
This is 10. Okay.
Yep.
So, the last one is the victim.
Huh.
The victim is someone, or the saboteur, that there's this deep desire for emotional connection and understanding from other people. And so there's this extreme focus on your internal feelings, pain, and it's almost like, picture a martyr, where it's almost self-sacrificing, or I'll just, yeah, this is horrible, but this is just how it is. So you kind of are wanting to get love and attention by focusing on all of the horrible things that have happened to you and are happening to you.
Okay.
So that's
Um,
it. Those are the 10 saboteurs.
it's crazy that there's 10. That's like that's a lot. Um,
Yeah.
okay, my reactions is so real quick just to list them all. The judge, the avoider, the controller, the hyperachiever, the hyper rational, the hyper vigilant, the pleaser, the restless, the stickler, and the victim. Um, how do you want to do this? Do you want me to tell you what I think your top two are and you do the same for me, or should we just talk about ourselves?
Let's just talk about ourselves.
Okay.
You're fine to guess me if you want, but I feel like I'm going to not guess the right ones.
That's all right. Just do it. Um, I think for you, so you already talked about the hyperachiever being one that you struggle with, and that is one of your top ones. For me, I would say three came to mind for me about you. I think the
Okay.
pleaser, the restless, and the stickler. I think um the restless and the stickler for me are very similar. So in my head, the stickler is the one, to your point, everything has to be perfect. Like, I can't sleep until it's done. And I think that leads right into the restless, where it's like, if I don't know how to solve something, I can't stop until I know what the answer is. And so I think those two go very hand in hand. And then I also think you're an extremely selfless person, and it's really hard for you to say no to stuff. So for me, I think it is very rare for you to be selfish and do things that you actually want to do. And it's very easy for you to put everyone else in your life above you. So I think the pleaser um maybe isn't the ultimate saboteur that you think, but honestly, I would think that the pleaser maybe is your number one. What do you think? How'd I do?
So, first of all, you said that in the most kind way. The way that you described it would be like anybody would want to be the pleaser because that was so kind. Um, the pleaser for me, I'll have to go look at my results. It was either number 3 or number 4. It is definitely one of them. What I've found is been interesting for me is that different saboteurs show up in different aspects of my life. So depending on what lens I take that quiz from, like if I'm focusing on my personal life versus my work life, um, there's some that saboteurs show up in different areas very strong. So my top is hyperachiever. My next one was it avoider? I think it was avoider or stickler. And then whichever one. 1 and 2 was avoider and stickler, and then pleaser
Okay.
was up there too. I've gotten better. I've told you, I've been getting
Yeah.
better at pleaser. I've really been
Yes.
working on it. But yeah, avoider I've noticed work really comes up in work things that I'm not passionate about. Like when there is a task that I have to do, but I don't feel like it aligns with my passions or my talents,
Mhm.
gifts, and abilities, I'm just like, that goes to the end of the list. I'm going to do all these other things before I get to that. And
Mhm.
I want to avoid it. So,
Like
yeah.
next year, Brooke, when we do taxes, I'm gonna be a mega avoider.
You're calling it out. So then maybe it won't be as bad as you think.
Maybe. Okay, what do you think about me?
All right. I'm going to guess. Well, you kind of hinted about the pleaser piece. So, it's going to be hard. Pleaser. I'm going to guess. I want you to take the quiz. We should put the link because you can take the free quiz. We should put the link in the show notes
Yeah,
so
we'll put it
people
in the
can
show
go
notes.
and take it and see what they get. You're not hyper rational. You're not hyper vigilant. I don't know. Is it similar? There's got to be pleaser, avoider, and then hyperachiever.
Yeah, I think there's a deep, like, the judge I can relate with a lot, just kind of a deep feeling that I'm not good enough. I think that's totally fair. I struggle with that. It's hard because sometimes I can come across as very confident and intimidating. I've been getting recently, which is hard for me to hear because I don't intend to be intimidating. But when people actually know like how I'm feeling on the inside, which of course they don't, there's actually more of the judge talking than just this super confident intimidation guy. Real quick, breaking news. We won, Brooke. So Utah State is the Mountain West regular season champions. So look, we're number one. Go Aggies.
Oh my goodness.
We're storming the
Wow.
court right now. Really cool. Fun times in Logan. So all you Aggies enjoy this. It's been a special season. But I think the judge, I think what you said, I think those are the right ones. And but I think the judge is definitely one I struggle with. So, I know, Brooke, we've spent a lot of time talking about the goal saboteurs. What would be like your biggest advice for folks? So like after in the show notes, we'll put the quiz and everyone can learn like what their goal saboteurs are. And I'm sure there's extensive strategies and practical uh like activities that everyone can do to counter these saboteurs. But if you had to give like one piece of advice to folks that coming into this episode had no idea what a saboteur was, what would you tell them after they learn what their saboteurs are?
Yeah, you're right. There is a whole program that if you are entrenched in sabotage, self-sabotage, or have these that are wreaking havoc on your life, then there is a whole thing called positive intelligence that helps you build this muscle so that you don't have to suffer through this anymore. But high level, Hayden, to keep it so simple, this is what the research shows. When you have one of these saboteurs showing up, you start avoiding, or there's the judge of self. Just start with the judge because that's the most prevalent for every single person. Call it out. The first thing is to catch it. You got to catch it. And by catching it,
Hmm.
you're immediately bringing something from your subconscious brain into consciousness. And because of that, you're not running on autopilot. You're actually able to make a decision. So when you have the negative thoughts of, that's not meant for me, or, oh, why'd you do that? You just botched that whole presentation, or, man, I'm such a horrible parent because blah, blah, blah. Say, that's my judge. Look who showed up. There's the judge. Catch it. And once you catch it, the quickest way, step 2, is to celebrate. Now, celebrate meaning like you can, if you're at work and you don't want to like raise your arms and cheer and be like, yes, literally just giving yourself a hug, or telling yourself internally, good job, you caught the judge. You're going to laugh, Hayden, that this is the thing. And it's going to sound so simple to everybody listening. Like, really? How is that going to help? But let me tell you, when you celebrate, what they have found is that it releases dopamine in the brain. Now, for those of you that have not studied or don't know what dopamine is literally they call it the happiness drug. It's also the reason why people are addicted to phones and scrolling on the internet. You get a dopamine hit from going through reels, and it lets you, if you're filled with this happiness, right? They've tied this to habits. So back to goals, right? The quicker that you take action on something and then you have a dopamine hit after that, the quicker it becomes a habit in your day-to-day life. So by celebrating, even a hug or saying, yes, I did it. Think about like right now when you stood up because you're cheering for the Aggies and you're like, yes, for your favorite, you feel that internal, like something physically changes inside your body. It's the same thing with this. You're taking that negative response pattern that your hot hand on the stove and you're switching it, and you're getting a positive impact immediately that's going to strengthen that mental muscle. The goal is to switch from autopilot saboteur mind to the positive side of our mind as quick as possible. And every rep counts. Every time you do that, you're strengthening that. So there's so much more to it, Hayden, but that is the most simple next step that works, that's backed by science.
I just love, the idea of giving yourself a hug. That is like such a Brooke nuance of celebration. So that's why I've been smiling over here, just imagining you like at work, just like hugging yourself. I haven't given myself very many hugs, but it's something that I'd really like to practice. I think this is great. I just think that just kind of reflecting, Brooke, on some of the topics we've covered so far on our podcast is this isn't like a sexy topic. Is that fair? Like, the left part of your brain that is sabotaging success. Like, when I think about that as a topic, that's not like, ooh, yeah, like AI and, it's not really fun. Like, this is stuff that is like super psychology driven, and like, you have to learn this stuff. Like, it's hard. I'm sure it's hard to identify some of these things that are happening when they're happening, especially if you've never thought about this before. But y'all, this is important stuff. So it's kind of gritty, grindy. We're in the trenches of what makes you tick as a person. But this is the stuff, again, like the difference between like good and great is like 1,000x difference, not 10x. And these are the things that you all need to focus on if you really want to be great, if you really want to do things that you didn't even think were possible. If you want this world to be a better place because you were part of it, and you want to be industry leading in whatever it is that your passion is, whether it's starting your business or whatever function you want to work in or whatever you want to do for a living, these are the type of things that you need to think about. You need to identify in yourself, and then you need to figure out how to counter, because all of us struggle with these things. And so, Brooke, that was just kind of my reflection, that I still need to go and reflect on how I can overcome my saboteurs. But this isn't like a trendy, fun, like virally topic, but it's so important, and it's hard work, and it's challenging, and it's difficult, and there's a lot of different types, but we all need to do it.
Yeah. And I love this topic. So I'm so grateful that you guys have sat with us through it, because even if it isn't the trendiest or whatever else, to me, it's fascinating and it's changing people's lives to
Yeah.
understand this. So it's been good.
All right, Brooke. Well, thank you so much for taking us through the 10 saboteurs, y'all. We want to hear from you. What of these 10 saboteurs do you really struggle with? Again, the free quiz is in the show notes, so feel free to take it. And then send us a message on which saboteur you relate with the most from your results. And was it a surprise? Was your results from the quiz shocking and you didn't feel like that was you, but the quiz helped you uncover a potential saboteur that's really holding you back in work-life relationships? So, thank y'all. We love y'all. Go Aggies. For now, from Team Fearless, that's the pod.